Our Audacy NFL insider, Baldy, joins us now here on The Fan. And a good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me.
It's we're in a similar spot here, Baldy. Dallas and Philadelphia ending way too soon. What's going on up there with all this talk about the roster being disconnected? Is that true?
We're talking about now the roster disconnected with who?
The Eagles.
Well, I mean, they're it's a very simplistic offense. They don't have any answer for the blitzes. They don't get off blocks too good in defense, and they don't cover on the back end. You can look at the roster, and the roster is old, bloated, slow, and they don't look very well coached. So they have a lot of issues right there in Philadelphia.
What changed? I mean, they were at 10-1 and figuring out a way to get it done. Was there nothing behind the scenes that affected the chemistry, that affected their play? Was it just all a bad execution run?
No, I mean, they were waiting. I mean, even when they beat New England week 1, everybody was kind of waiting for them to blow teams out, put 4 quarters of football together. And they did at times. I mean, they put the Patriots away. They played the Minnesota Vikings, and, they ran for 250 yards. They played the Bucks. They ran for 200. They were running the ball earlier in the year, and DeAndre Swift was having a great year, and then they kind of got away from that. And then they had all their injuries in the secondary and at linebacker. And so they picked guys up off the street and off the wire and made some trades, but they never really fit into a system. Whatever the system is, they never really fit in and became a unified group. And so that was a big part of it. And then the quarterback was injured for much of the season, and he didn't run anywhere like he ran a year ago when he was, him and Lamar were just tearing the league up, running the football. And he kind of got away from doing that, and they didn't have that dynamic extra edge on offense in the last 6 weeks of the season.
What's the outlook for Philly next year?
I don't know. I mean, Jeffrey Lurie's not going to just sit back. I think they're going to make a change, at least at the coordinator's level. But I would say that to stay in status quo right now and not do anything would be a terrible mistake. I mean, what if you bring back that same team that was dreadful the last 6 weeks of the season? And they'd finish in the cellar.
The Cowboys would do that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't think Cowboys are going to finish in the cellar. I mean, the Eagles could finish in the cellar. So, so I think that changes are coming in Philly. I don't know to what level. Players are telling me certain things. So, because maybe they hear certain things right now. But I would say that, they're not going to stand pat at this point. I mean, at least the coordinator is going to be changed.
Hey, Baldy, did they make a mistake, though, of going to Matt Patricia? Did that lose the locker room or divide the locker room when they went from Desai to Patricia? Did they lose, the players lose some confidence in the coach, in the head coach at that point?
Well, I mean, Darius Slay played for Matt Patricia in Detroit, and it couldn't have gotten worse. I mean, there was some really bad blood between those two. Now, whether that still existed with Slay and with Patricia, it's kind of hard to think that some of the things that were said by a coach and a player that they could just forget like that never happened. But, they went to a more simplistic approach in the secondary. They went to a more quarters approach. But they still had communication breakdowns.
Sure.
And then, guys are, there's certain guys on that defense are not in good shape. I mean, condition-wise, they're not in good shape. They don't, you watch the Eagles play defense, and then you go, watch the Chicago Bears or at the end of the season, or go watch the Houston Texans, go play defense, and you watch a team sprint to the football the way it's supposed to be. And there looks like there's a real effort issue from that side of the ball. And sometimes, that's a responsibility of the coach to get guys to play hard, and guys that don't, get other guys in there that do.
Yeah, it's getting pretty old watching these playoff failures here in Dallas. Baldy, what do you think should happen this offseason? Are you moving on from the coach? Are you looking at maybe making a change at quarterback? Both? I mean, how would you navigate this offseason if you were the GM?
Well, it's been a dreadful 3 years. They beat a really bad Tampa team, over the last 3 years in the playoffs. I think they were lucky to be there at that point. But, it's been an ugly exit 3 years in a row. And so at some point you go, well, who cares if we're undefeated at home? If we are the highest scoring offense in football, who cares about any of that? When we get to the postseason, none of that happens. We don't score 30 points or 40 the way they do during the regular season. So, the turnovers, the pick six was pretty good play by Green Bay and a little safety rotation and a blitz. They fell right into the trap. They set the cheese and they took it. So at some point you go, this is a failure of coaching at some point. Green Bay was much better prepared and played much better in a big spot. And at some point, you can beat a lot of bad teams and put up big numbers against Washington and New York and maybe a fading Philadelphia Eagle team and think everything's fine. But everything certainly isn't fine when you saw what the Packers just did. So at some point, you go, should we just stay the course? And, hopefully we'll just tweak the roster a little bit. And when we get to the playoffs next year, we'll make our run. Well, 3 years in a row, Cowboy fans have seen that they're not ready to make a run. So at some point you go, do you blow it all up like Michael Irvin said? Or is there another fix that's an intermediate fix that gets this team better prepared for the postseason? Because other teams look prepared for it. Houston Texans look prepared. Green Bay Packers look prepared. Tampa Bay look prepared for the postseason. They know it's played at a different level, at a different intensity level, and they all played at that.
Baldy,
excuse
me. How do you make your my fault, sir. How do you make your team tougher?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question right now. Honestly, I think it really does start how you practice, because we all know there's limitations to how you practice. Typically a team that is great on defense is great on kickoff coverage. A lot of those players play on defense. Tackling, shows up on kickoff coverage when teams do get a chance. I mean, that's one little thing. But I just think that there's got to be – it comes down to coaching and the type of players you have and how badly they want to be coached and how hard they want to be coached. And I think that's where it starts right now because of the limitations that most teams have in practice.
Brian Baldinger with us here on The Fan. So we know, the coaching issues. Where are you at with the quarterback, with Dak?
Well, I think Dak is a good quarterback, but these turnovers keep, turning up when you can't afford them. I mean, there's 4 interceptions in the last 2 playoff losses that were pretty significant. And while he took care of the ball most of the season, I think Green Bay knew that, the ball was going to CeeDee Lamb, and they sort of were ready for it. But we haven't seen him play. We haven't seen him elevate the team in the postseason. And ultimately, great quarterbacks, especially quarterbacks in Dallas, only get measured by how they play in the postseason. Troy Aikman's stats, Roger Staubach's stats, those separate them from every other quarterback that played for the Cowboys, how they played in the postseason. And so you have to make that evaluation. Is he, when the stakes get high and it's sudden death and there is no tomorrow, can you get the best out of Dak? So far, we haven't seen it. Because the defense is going to be better. They're going to be better coached. There's going to be more traps laid out there like Green Bay did. And are you able to avoid those and avoid the mistakes and elevate the guys around you? And right now, it's pretty clear that when you get to that time of the year, you're not getting the best out of Dak. So, at some point you go, is this the guy to lead us to a Super Bowl?
Insider calls are brought to you by Old Spice Gentleman's Blend Body Wash, providing exfoliation plus 24/7 moisturization because men have skin too. We'll check.
Baldy, one thing was the running game never got going this year, and the Cowboys ended up with 2 first-team All-Pro guards and then a second-team All-Pro tackle in Tyron. Did you notice anything? It seems like if you've got 3 guys that are that good along the offensive line, you should be able to run the football.
Well, it didn't seem like it was emphasized, and it didn't seem like it was worked on throughout the season. The team that you saw in the playoffs on the other side is diverse and creative in the run game as anyone you're going to see in this league, with what they do in the tight ends and how they shift to strengths and how the running back cuts back and what they look to cut back. I just didn't see that in Dallas. I didn't see the creativity in the run game. And people always think about, the creativity is in the pass game. The creativity is in the run game just as well. And I don't see that. I don't see that from the Dallas. Now, you can say Tony Pollard is an every down back. He got more touches he's ever got in his life. Maybe he's not an every down back. Maybe he's a change of pace back. But I just didn't see the creativity, the diversity, and the commitment to the run game that I think is necessary to be good at it.
Do you think they could be good with the personnel? They just need a better approach?
Well, I think they need a bigger back. You saw all the problems they had down the goal line and the short yardage this year. It showed up all the time. So I think they need a bigger, more powerful back because it's not necessarily, and I shouldn't say just more powerful or bigger. I should say a guy that really understands contact balance and can just run through. Because Aaron Jones isn't a big guy, but he's a great contact runner, and he runs through contact like he did down the goal line twice, and like he did 4 years ago down to the goal line. Like he runs through contact. And so while he's only 200 pounds or 205 pounds, he plays like a big back because of his contact balance.
Were you surprised how distracted the Cowboys were in the first half with CD and Dak couldn't get on the same page?
Yes, I was surprised. I was alarmed, actually, because you had 135 completions to this guy. The whole offense ran through CD. There shouldn't be a situation. He's running a 5-yard stop route on the outside, and the ball sails over his head. I mean, where else is he going to be? Like, he's run these routes every week, all week, 16, 18 targets a game. And I was alarmed at how bad the throw in the end zone against Keyshawn Nixon, how he sailed that out the back of the end zone. I mean, I just thought that they had every single machination available, no matter what the defense does. I thought the defense couldn't be right the way they connected during the season. So I was highly alarmed by the disconnect between those two.
What's your perspective on Jerry Jones? The talking point is back that maybe he undermines coaches with his ownership style.
I don't know what that means. I don't know. Like he's the owner. If he wants to have a Jerry Jones press conference, or if he wants to have a Jerry Jones radio show, I mean, he's entitled to it. Most owners are reluctant to do that, but that's Jerry's style. And if that undermines a coach, then the coach isn't as strong as he needs to be. I don't believe that that should affect what the coach does. If that's what undermining is, if that's the implication of it.
Okay, so that kind of goes to, he's a owner / GM, and I was going to say, I think the Cowboys right now have a better roster, and they probably have a better coaching staff than the Eagles, but I would bet on Philly to get to the Super Bowl next because of the difference of Howie Roseman to Jerry Jones.
I don't know. Cowboys have drafted a whole lot better than the Eagles. I mean, I haven't seen Jordan Davis become a star player like Micah did. They haven't drafted a receiver like CeeDee Lamb. I mean, I'd go through the roster and say that the Cowboys have drafted better. Tyler Smith looks better, as good to me as any lineman that the Eagles have drafted in a while. They brought in DeAndre Swift in order to become their starting running back. They didn't draft one. I'd go to the roster and go, the Cowboys, they didn't draft the corners, Deron Bland or, Diggs or, pick a guy. They haven't drafted those kind of players. So I would say that the draft has been better in Dallas to start players.
All right, Baldy, what is or who is the team that is the underdog this weekend that you think is going to pull it out?
I don't know if Green Bay is going to pull it out, and they're certainly the underdog to San Francisco. But I've seen teams play San Francisco, offensively, play the 49ers defense and have great success all year long. I saw Kirk Cousins do it. I saw Joe Burrow do it. I saw Baker have success. I saw Carson Wentz drive the Rams right down the field against their number one defense and score. I've seen teams move the ball on the 49ers. So I think Green Bay is going to have success offensively. Now, I don't know if they're equipped. I don't know if anybody's equipped to just stop or corral the 49ers offense right now. But I think that's a game that might go deep into the fourth quarter that we might be a little surprised by.
We learned some things about you last week, our Old Spice questions of the day to Brian Baldinger. We learned that, you're a bar of soap guy in the shower.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
we learned that you go bare hands with it. There's no loofahs, there's no washcloths, and you will not scrub below the knees. You'll just trust that the residual water and soap will go ahead and get that cleaned up. Now this week, I'm curious, true or false? Every time Baldy goes number one, he's washing his hands.
False.
Yeah.
I don't believe in germs, so I know that offends people. But sometimes I do, but sometimes I don't. Well, sometimes I'm just, all right, that took care of that. I haven't been sick since, I don't know, college, so I just don't believe in it.
Yeah, and that was just beer-induced sickness. That wasn't even a virus. Towel usage.
I ate up, probably something I dropped on the floor and I ate.
So there's no 5-second rule with Baldy, that's for sure.
No 5-second rule. Food's food. Time to go.
Amen, dude. One of the best chicken tenders I ever ate was off the floor. Towel usage. How many times will you use a towel, Baldy, before you say, okay, this thing probably needs to get washed?
There's a shower at NFL Films that sometimes, if you're in an 18-hour day, you go outside to get a workout in. I go in the shower and kind of revive myself. It's been the same towel there for 4 years. The towel's never been changed. The same olive green towel. It's a little stiff right now.
It's a little stiff.
The job done. Still drives me off when I come out of here.
That is absolutely legendary. Brian Baldinger with us here on The Fan. Okay, will Brian Baldinger ever elect to, when the mood strikes, I'm going to go ahead and just pee in the shower right now?
Oh, yeah, of course. Shower, the pool, the ocean. Yes. Yeah, there's no harm to that. That's what the drain is for.
Listen, man, you and I couldn't agree more on just about everything. So we love you to death, and we look forward to next week and our continued series, Old Spice Questions of the Day with Brian Baldinger.
All right, let's do it. Maybe there'll be some changes in Dallas. Who knows?
Maybe.
He's awfully quiet there right now.
It is.
We pray, man. We pray.
Thanks, Baldy.
All right, take care, guys.